We have a motion by Nagel, second by Luthens to approve today's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 today will be Pack for Families Collaborative. We do have a presenter for that. Go ahead with Mike.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for letting me come and share some updates from Pack for Families. This is the first time I've presented in front of this board, so thank you for the opportunity. Over the last year, we have had a change in leadership, obviously. We've continued to do our work in collaboration with community partners, local organizations, and dedicated individuals to implement programs and initiatives that really prioritize the well-being of our families, including the families in McLeod County. We have renewed our efforts to expand membership, which has been a big task, and continue to seek appropriate funding for our current initiatives, as well as future projects and initiatives to help fill the gaps in the service delivery system that we know have been identified. Through the collaborative efforts, we have made some pretty good progress, I think, this year, and provide valuable services to individuals throughout the region, and look forward to continuing our efforts in the region. Today I want to just provide you with a little bit of an overview, and there is a 2022 annual review available on our website, and we are working on our 2023 review if you would like to just take a deeper look at some of the things that have been happening at PACT. I'd also like to express my appreciation and gratitude for your ongoing support here with the county commissioners and the partners that we have here in McLeod County. Your guidance and partnership with our shared mission and vision really help to strengthen and empower the youth and the families across our service region. Your commitment to the well-being of our communities has helped to shape the direction and the impact of our initiatives, and we really appreciate your partnership. I value your insights and your perspective and your feedback. So as I'm going through my presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask some questions. I think one of the things that I really want to focus on today is that alone we can do so little, but together when we work as a collaborative we can do so much more. So if you can go to the next slide, I would like to talk a little bit about our mission and our values. Our mission at Pack for Families is partners working together to strengthen families and support children in achieving their highest potential. And we really do that through our values. In our partnership, we support the development of innovative care models and enhance children's mental health and well-being. We really look to ensure that families have a voice in our initiatives and our programs. We work to empower them and embrace strength-based and family-driven practices, and we really demonstrate this through our wraparound programs and some of our other. We really focus on prevention and early intervention strategies and strive for cultural equity within our communities and our projects. And we believe in continuous measurement, continuous improvement and measurement as we're working through to make sure that we are reaching our outcomes and maintaining accountability of our programs. Next slide, please. One of the biggest things that we have going at Pack for Families is our LCTS funding, and through that we are able to offer $100,000 in discretionary grants. And in McLeod County, I will say that there isn't much action with our discretionary grants, but we do have one current discretionary grant happening at the Hutchinson School, which included some social and emotional learning curriculum that the teachers have been utilizing within the school. They've been working to help children within their school district recognize when they are coming into some of those challenging situations with their emotions maybe will take charge of their actions, and helping them to recognize that some breathing techniques and mindfulness can help them to achieve better outcomes for themselves. In May, we also do May is Mental Health Month, and this year the LAC worked to get some mental health cards out with crisis information on them. So that is one big project that they did, and that was in place of radio ads that we've done in the past, but that has been a good thing. I don't have any with me today. I meant to grab some and I forgot. Our ACES Coalition project is another one. A couple years ago we put out a calendar that went out to all of the counties, and this year our project is more aimed at families, and we are working on a Youth Connections magazine which will address ACEs, mental health, substance use prevention, and have local local materials and projects from local area going out to about 10,000 families across the 5-county region. And then we had some trust-based relational intervention trainings that happened across the 5 counties. We did 3, and I think we reached about 180 therapists, social workers, professionals working, and families working with kids who've experienced trauma. So that has been a great thing also. We do have one school social worker that is currently a PACT employee, and that is at Hutchinson, Sarah Nelson. There has been a move to move our school social worker programs into the schools so that the schools will take on employment of those staff. This year we are doing a 15%, we are taking care of 15% of their salary and benefits. And then next year for 25, it will be 10% of their total salary and benefits coming from PACT, with following years 100% of salary and benefits coming from the school districts themselves. We have worked up kind of a alternative plan where the staff will stay on as PACT employees, because it's been kind of a challenge to get that transition moving in the right direction. So we really value our school social workers and want to make sure that we can maintain that relationship and ensure that we're providing those services to the students as needed. Our Connecting Families, Family Liaison, and Wraparound, you can go ahead and change slides, thank you, continues across the 5 counties. Connecting Families sponsored some sensory-friendly movies at Hutchinson and the Spicer Cinema, and we reached about 700 attendees. And so these movies allow parents who maybe don't have the opportunity to take some of their more challenging children out to a movie. It brings the sound down and the lights up so that it can be a place of no judgment for our families to really interact with in our communities and enjoy a nice family day out. So that has been a great thing that happens across our counties. Our Connecting Families group within McLeod County, we did just have a resignation of that support group leader, so we are looking to fill that position, but we do have support groups happening in Kandiyohi and Meeker County that happen online, so parents across the 5 counties can also interact with that group as well. We do have 2 family liaisons who support parents and caregivers within McLeod County, and they are very busy. They are fully staffed and fully full of clients. So we do have a small waiting list for that program, but I think those services are going very well within McLeod as well as our other counties. In September, we did see our retirement of our longtime wraparound coordinator, Shar. So we have been working to fill that position and ensure that the wraparound services can continue throughout the 5 counties. The next program is Partnership for Success, and that is more focused towards Yellow Medicine, Renville, and Kandiyohi counties, but that is youth substance use prevention, and we are working pretty strongly in that area. GIA is our cultural equity program, which really focuses on youth in the Latino and the Somali populations who are struggling with mental health or substance use issues. So we have 2 full-time staff in that program, and that program, the funding from the state is set to end on June 30th, so we are currently looking for additional funding to continue those cultural efforts. We have recognized that the need for those cultural liaisons has been very important, and we look forward to finding more funding for that program. Our Journey to Independence program is one that really touches McLeod County pretty heavily. We have 12 youth within the Journey to Independence program that we service. That program focuses on youth who are 16 to 21 who are transitioning into adulthood, and some of them have serious emotional disturbances or serious mental illnesses that they've been diagnosed with, and we work to help them learn the skills that they need to transition into adulthood successfully. So that program has been, we are in year 5 of that 5-year grant. And we recently received a new grant from SAMHSA to expand the services of our Journey to Independence program to include our Roads to Success program, which includes those students and youth who are at risk for those social emotional disorders and serious mental illness. And it also includes kids with developmental disabilities. So we're able to expand those services to reach a larger group of people and make a bigger difference within our counties. So we're very excited about that project. Next slide. This is some of our advertising campaigns that we've been working on with the Journey to Independence program. We're really working to raise awareness about the fact that some of these children and youth that are going into adulthood are really struggling, and that we, next slide, offer services that can help during these challenging times, because we know that even kids who don't have serious emotional disorders and serious mental illness can sometimes struggle to get into those adult responsibilities and be successful. So we work on schooling, work, finances, personal relationships, and help develop those skills through some skill building exercises and interventions that are evidence-based to promote the most success for these youth. And we do that in the next slide through no judgment. So we have transition facilitators who work with our kids and our youth to help find affordable housing, provide some job training, and help them to express their thoughts and emotions that may be a little bit more challenging during that transition. So it's a great program, and we're very excited to be able to expand those services to a larger group of kids. Next slide. And then just our information. Yep, next slide, thank you. This is our Roads to Success program. Just a little bit, I already talked about this, but it just helps youth across the service region into those adult roles and responsibilities through skill building and peer support. We really focus on peer support in these programs. So we have youth who have experienced the journey and who have maybe had some mental health and maybe some substance use experience, and working through and being that peer-to-peer really helps to help those kids transition successfully. Next slide. So as I am finishing up here, if anybody has any questions, I just want to thank Commissioner Luthens for being an active member of our collaborative. I enjoy seeing him at our collaborative meetings, and I'm glad to see that you're up and around. We really work to engage with purpose, and I encourage all of you to embrace innovation of our projects and share them, advocate for the impact that we can have within our counties, help us celebrate our successes by sharing that information out with people within your communities, and help us to bring more families to the table, because like I said, we really value that family voice. So we look to collaborate beyond boundaries. Stay in. I hope that Commissioner Luthens shares some of the things that he hears at our collaborative meetings with all of you. And I think that helps us to be inspired and to inspire you as well. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Is there anyone that has any comments?
I have one.
Yep.
So excuse me. So when these people are growing up, leaving their families at high school and coming to be adults, when do the families drop off?
Sure.
Financially?
Yep, so we have the JTI program, Journey to Independence, focuses on youth 16 to 21. So we have a family liaison that works with the families up to the age of 18, and then the youth have the ability to transition into that adult role. And if they want us to still have that contact with the family, we can do that. But we do encourage that transition into those adult roles and responsibilities. As far as financially, I don't actually have the answer to that question, but the services we provide really help to transition them into those adult responsibilities. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Luthens?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thanks for coming in, Sarah.
Yeah.
And giving us a short explanation of PACT. And thanks to Commissioner Luthens for serving on that Joint Powers Board as well. Question I have is, how do we go from talking about the needs to creating an action? And if we can't create an action, are we underfunded? Are we lacking mental health professionals to deal with some of these issues? Where do you think the ball is being dropped with the mental health crisis that we're all aware of today?
Right, so I think that we do have a lack of professionals in the area, especially when we're dealing with behavioral health. I know you guys in McLeod County have access to more services than we do in some of our other smaller rural counties. Not that this isn't rural, but when you reach out to Yellow Medicine County, we really see a shortage of providers that are able to take on the task of dealing with some of those really strong behavioral health problems. We do still have a pretty large gap in services being offered through PAC for families for that age, birth to 14, 15. So we do talk about that at our LAC groups, trying to determine if there's better funding sources, what sorts of services are missing, and how we can try and fill those gaps. It's a really hard question to answer, and I think it's not just a PAC for Family Service Area region issue, it's a United States issue for dealing with the behavioral health issues that are out there right now. So
Yeah, Mr.
we work
Chair.
to, through our evaluation process, to identify some of those things through the SHARE survey, and that all of our schools participate in that, so it helps us to identify some of the services that are missing for kids, but we don't necessarily, I think the public health surveys really address the mental health issues across for adults and how we can fill those gaps. So we work together as much as we can.
Mr. Chair?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and Sarah, you kind of said it. I mean, I sit on the LAC committee meetings, and we hear a similar story. Nowhere for these people to go for help. Where do we turn? Where does law enforcement turn? How do you refer somebody who's looking for mental health or who is going through a mental health crisis?
Right.
I hear over and over again that there's no help, there's no immediate help available. I mean, somebody in a mental health crisis doesn't want to hear that, I can't help you, or contact me next summer, maybe I'll have an opening.
Right.
That does not work for someone in a mental health crisis.
Mm-hmm. We do have family liaisons who do support our families in ways that we can, but like you said, we have a small wait list right now, so it's not crisis intervention. We do have those crisis cards that we hope are helping, so that people have at least hotlines that they can get a hold of people and talk through some of those issues with. Yeah. So I can share some of those out with you guys too. You're welcome.
Good. Anything else, anyone? Good. Well, thank you again for coming today. It's a very, very important program to have active, so we're glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Next item will be our county attorney will go over our cannabis ordinance options today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as far as the procedural update on the McLeod County ordinance, proposed ordinance regulating use of cannabis and cannabis-derived products in public places, this item, as you know, is back on today's agenda following the November 7th board meeting, during which time a public hearing was held. We did receive very little public comment during that hearing. However, there was discussion had, and Ms. Spores from Health and Human Services also presented information before that public hearing relating to some of the public health concerns that this ordinance would be aimed at addressing. Those included concerns regarding secondhand smoke from cannabis products, normalization of public use, public impairment, and unintentional ingestion or consumption, particularly by minors. Following the discussion at that last meeting, I've included 3 drafts of the proposed ordinance that you'll see in the packet today. The first draft is the original proposed ordinance that we had discussed at the last meeting, at the workshops, and that had been previously distributed. The effect of draft number 1, I'll refer to it as, would take effect countywide, but it included a jurisdictional provision that stated that if a municipality within the county passed their own ordinance on the subject, that their ordinance would take precedent within that municipality. So that is the one where a city basically would have the option to opt out. They could pass something that was more restrictive or less restrictive. If they took action, that ordinance would govern within their city. The second option I've included was based in large part on a question asked by Commissioner Nagel regarding draft 1 and what would happen with county-owned property or county parks, particularly if they fell within city boundaries. And so what I included in draft 2 is essentially the original draft ordinance plus clarifying language that makes it clear that any county-owned property or county parks would be governed by the county ordinance regardless of any local government ordinances that may be adopted. Draft 3, based on the input and discussion from the previous workshops and the last meeting, is a draft that has the same regulation, except the jurisdictional provision there simply makes it have effect county-wide. So the impact of that would be all property within the county would be subject to that ordinance. Now, municipalities or cities would still have the option there to be even more restrictive, but they couldn't be less restrictive by operation of law. So right now, those are the 3 drafts that I've included. The drafts 2 and 3 are based directly on the input from the last meeting. So that's kind of a summary of where we had been. The public hearing was open and closed at the last meeting, so now it's just a matter of what, if anything, the board would like to address regarding these 3 drafts or any others that may be proposed. Thank you.
Okay, anyone from the board have any information, questions, ideas of where they'd like to go? We did, as was mentioned, we did complete the requirement of the public hearing the last time we met, tabled until today. And we do have 3 different drafts in front of us. I know for myself, I was very surprised at how little correspondence came our way from individuals on this, but we did have some workshop meetings on it, and there was some comment, but again, not near as much as what I thought we'd be having on this topic. So,
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
oh,
Go ahead,
Well,
Ryan.
just, and for other context, one thing I did bring up at the last meeting, and I'll just reiterate here, is to date, there are 2 cities within the county that have passed regulations regarding cannabis use in public places. One is the city of Hutchinson, the other, the city of Glencoe. They're both different drafts than what is before the board today. Glencoe's does essentially regulate the same conduct as ours in slightly different, or of these drafts in slightly different language. Hutchinson's is a little bit different in that it in large part mirrors the regulations they had on tobacco smoke and tobacco products in public places. So there are those 2 on the books as things stand now. Thank you.
Commissioner Nagel?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Overall, the public comment at the meetings was mostly city governments, at least the first couple, and I appreciate that. I did get some comments on really all 3 of these options, either pro or against all 3 of the options, but overwhelmingly, at least in the people that talked to me, draft 3 was what was mostly acceptable to the people that talked to me. So with that, and knowing that this could be a long, drawn-out vote and discussion, I will move to adopt draft 3, a version that would have effect countywide.
Mr. Chair, I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Nagel, a second by Kruger, to adopt the cannabis ordinance draft 3, which is a version that would have an effect countywide as presented by our attorney's office. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
But
I mean, it's frustrating to go through all this, but it's the only one that matches, in my opinion, to the county. Without getting out in the weeds, I foresee changes in the ordinance. It's new. I foresee changes, and I think the most speedy way to look into any changes coming up will be that the county has the more stringent or the main ordinance, however you want to put it in my words, but that's all I've got.
Okay, anyone else wish to comment?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
My line of thought is similar to Commissioner Kruger's as well. I think that, we might not get it all perfect and correct in this draft if we vote for it today, but it's a starting point. And it can change in time as we see the need. So with that being said, I'll support the motion in front of us today.
Anyone else wish to make a comment? And I will add as well, the comments that we have heard through our workshops, that the easiest way to be clear what the ordinance would be, and to clean up misunderstandings, is to have one that is in effect for the entire county. You don't have to think is what one city would have different than the other. Is this park owned by the county or so forth? It's very clear and limits the confusion all the way from law enforcement to citizens. So I think that I too will be in favor of the motion. Anyone else comment? Commissioner Luthens? Good. Okay. Any further, or we'll proceed to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Draft accepted.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Health and Human Services. Barrett here.
That's our.
Oh, there, sorry, didn't see you on the side table.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 4 items for you today. The first, consider approving the 2024 Hispanic Outreach Worker Contract Renewal with Carmen Patino for the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, at a rate of $38.13 per hour with funds from the County Public Health Nursing Budget 01-485. Services were provided will include assistance with supplemental nutrition program, WIC activities, child and teen checkups, family mentoring, and interpretation and translation assistance. Excuse me, this is a 3% increase from our current 2023 contracted rate.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Question, Barrett. How long has the interpreter been working for McLeod County?
She's not an interpreter. She's a Hispanic outreach worker, and she does translation services as part of that for WIC clients. I believe she's been here, I'm not sure. I know she's been here since I've been here, which will be 3 years.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
I know words mean something, so what does that mean? I mean, it's easy for us to just say interpreter, and so
Yeah.
what is her real job?
So she assists clients that are in WIC that are Hispanic or Hispanic speaking. She reaches out to people in the community to make them aware of WIC and our child and teen services. So she assists us in that role with the Hispanic community.
Mr. Chair, it was a little rhetorical because I actually know Carmen. She works hard and she's a good person.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Kruger. Is there a second? I can. Second by Nagel. To approve the 2024 Hispanic Outreach Worker Contract. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
so is this another person than the one we've talked about hiring? Hispanic
Correct.
worker?
Yep, we've had Carmen for years. This is a totally separate, that's different than the community health worker or the translator that we've both talked about hiring.
So why do we need to do that then, if we have a Hispanic person already on staff?
A community health worker has a certification that's able to do more things besides the WIC and the child and teen check. A translator would be able to translate across the department and for the entire county potentially. So Carmen does not translate for us in any other realm except for those WIC clients or those child and teen checkup clients. So it's different services that would be able to be provided and billable services.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just to clean it up a little bit. I mean, she's been under this contract. I mean, it's,
Yes.
I mean, it's a 3% increase. I mean, the contract's been there. This isn't, I don't want people to, this isn't new.
No, this is a contract renewal. Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Thank you. Consider approving the cooperative agreement renewal between McLeod County Health and Human Services and the McLeod County Attorney's Office to provide fraud investigation services for the period of January 1, 2023 to January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, at a rate of $140 per hour for attorney work, $36 per hour for investigative work, not to exceed a maximum annual amount of $22,000, plus an additional $480 annually for a cell phone reimbursement. This will be paid for with funds from the Human Services Fund 11-420. This is a 3% increase over our 2023 contracted rates.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll move request.
Motion by Schmalz. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Kruger. To consider approving a cooperative agreement renewal between McLeod County Health and Human Services and the McLeod County Attorney's Office to provide fraud investigation services. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Ryan, could you just, I mean, are you, with your workloads, I mean, you're busy in this and a whole lot of other stuff, but pertaining to this particular question, I mean, you guys are loaded, is that correct?
We are, I mean,
I mean, that's not a bad thing, I didn't mean it as that, but I just mean there is just, in this world, there's so much investigating going on, some easy and some not so much, but.
we are, and this is an area that's a little unique in that our office spearheads more of the investigative function than we do in a typical case that might result in criminal charges. In most of those instances, it's our law enforcement agencies within the county spearheading that and referring us charges. We're here, we do have part-time investigators that do the work, but it's been an arrangement that's worked quite well, just with the overlap. I mean, the ongoing working relationship we have with the Health and Human Services Department, so that information moves freely. So it's been a positive arrangement, I think. It's obviously an important topic to protect those public funds from fraud and waste. So it's one that, while busy, we certainly prioritize, and we're happy to continue.
Mr. Chair, and the reason I asked the question is a question we get a lot, is this person I mean, first of all, we don't have the data, or, you know, it's protected data, so, I mean, I don't know, it's one of them necessary evils, which we seem to deal with every day anymore.
Any other comments, questions? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C.
Thank you. Consider approving the updated contract with the McLeod County Sheriff's Department for McLeod County Health and Human Services to provide professional services to jail inmates as needed starting January 1st, 2024, at a rate of $50 per hour with funds from the county public health nursing budget 01-485. McLeod County Health and Human Services provide licensed staff to deliver nursing services and discharge planning for jail inmates. Each discipline will provide an average of 20 hours per week, dependent on staff availability and capacity. This is an increase from our current contract that states 8 to 12 hours per week.
Okay. Questions on the contract at all?
So to clarify, the rate isn't changing. We're keeping that $50 per hour rate. We're just increasing our potential hours that we will be at the jail based on the need there of the jail inmates.
Okay. I can make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Wright, second by Nagel, to approve the contract between McLeod County Sheriff's Office Department and the McLeod County Health and Human Services to provide professional services to jail inmates. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just for the sake of commenting, I mean, it's another service that's overwhelmed. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, on and on we go, but it's they work hard as well, and the mental health situation for a whole host of reasons, and the jails are very bad.
Yeah, we're there a lot.
Any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D.
Thank you. Last one. Consider approving the purchase of service agreement with Brown County Evaluation Center to provide detoxification and evaluation services to referred clients for the period of January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, at a rate of $471 per outpatient per 24-hour period beginning at the time of admission. And with transportation costs billed at $1.27 per mile if the client is unable to provide their own transportation, with funds from the Human Services Fund 11-430. McLeod County will receive a discount of $88 per recipient for all amounts paid within 30 days of receipt of bill. This is approximately a 2.5% increase from our 2023 contracted rate.
Okay.
For those, just to add that we get invoiced that are not on medical assistance, we do try to reach out to that individual and recoup those dollars, which we are pretty successful at. So some of these, we might be able to get the dollars back after we've paid Brown County.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And a question, Barrett. Is this a contract that the service provides to any county that's affiliated or using Brown County?
Yeah, if they have a member contract like we do, then yes, many counties use Brown County. And by having a member contract, it kind of gives us priority over those open beds.
Thank you. I'll move as requested, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Schmalz. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Go ahead.
Second by Nagel. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Question, are the beds ever, I mean, are they full, and where you have to go to outside services? Or
We do
different
sometimes have to
services?
go to outside services, yes. At one of the last board meetings, you guys approved a contract with Central Minnesota Mental Health Center in St. Cloud for detoxification services. We prefer to use Brown County. We've just used them for a long time. They are at a reduced, or lower rate than the Central Minnesota one.
Right, and I guess my question is to make sure that we understood that doing the contract is worth, I mean, it's not
Absolutely.
always full.
Yeah, yes,
So
doing the
I was trying to
contract
get
is
to-
worth it, yep. I know the sheriff's department appreciates it because they're usually the ones that are sending them to, after they pick them up, they need to bring them to Brown County, and this contract helps them do that in a quicker manner.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be employee relations.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I just have one item this morning. Item A, consider approving a request reviewed by the Personnel Committee to increase hours of our elections personnel from 67 shift employees in 2023 to part-time employees in 2024. The elections personnel are a part of the Auditor Treasurer's Office, and they support our elections here in McLeod County. Due to recent legislation changes, including extended hours, additional voting dates, and tighter timelines, we are needing these roles to be with us longer than those 67 shifts. The Auditor Treasurer has saved $91,486 in the current 2023 personnel budget due to staffing changes, some leaves. This request will require an additional $76,532 above what was budgeted for our elections personnel in 2024, and we will utilize the excess funds available to cover that increased cost. Let me know if there are any questions.
Okay, go ahead, one.
Mr. Chair.
Go
I understand this pretty much, and it's a lot more important than a lot of people think, but I was just wondering if Connie or Janet would just come up and give us a crash course on what all these new regulations and all the procedures that you have to go through. And, I mean, as an added caveat, you guys do an excellent job of doing it, so you're good to explain it, but there's just a ton of people that don't understand the days of early voting, mail-in voting, live voting. I mean, just what does this all entail?
Good morning. So the election personnel helps out with the mail ballot process. They will help out, getting those ballots in the mail. They're going to be helping out with trainings. Those are all being moved back in-house. And then the equipment preparation and testing of all of our omni-ballot tablets, tabulators, and poll pads. And then they will be helping out with the public accuracy testing. They help out with our tote packaging and deployment. And then, of course, once voting does start, the AB staffing for the voting, which is in Biskie room over here, not in Biskie, the Biskie room over here. We do require flexible hours for those personnel. They do have structured duties, but we're very dependent upon the vendors for their release of ballots and release of programming. And we just, it's the most efficient for us if we can retain the same personnel all the way from the PNP election in March, and then again in the primary in August, and then again in the general election in November. That way those roles can continue to grow and be better staff for us also. Do you have anything to add, Janet?
No, I think you covered that very well.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And thanks Connie and Janet, and there's actually a little more to it than you've even said. I mean, it takes two people to be here and watch the ballots, 24-hour cameras. I mean, it's quite entailed, and this was all mandated, well, some of it's necessary, but it's mandated to us with no funding. So obviously, my emotions run a little high on how to get this done right, and I'm on personnel, and we've met, and my frustrations sometimes run over, and I'm not apologizing for that. I just really think it's that important, but I did do a lot of research on my own, and I mean, I talked to some township officials, and part of my thought was that, townships are responsible for elections, not as much as you, but equally as important as you. And I just, after looking it through and talking to some, I understand your want of employees that are there and trained the same for your process, and not just for elections, if that makes any sense. But, so, I mean, after quite a bit of thought, I mean, you've got a great idea. Maybe someday it gets tweaked, but I mean, your process is very, very good and very secure. And my thought was to try and make it a little more efficient, not necessarily easier, but where the costs wouldn't have to be so high. But I wasn't able to find anything any better than you guys had. So with that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, second by Nagel, to approve the request by Personnel Committee to increase the hours of the elections personnel from 67 shifts to part-time employees for 2024. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
This personnel meeting was one of the more intense ones I've ever been a part of, as we tried to figure out the mandates and the needs and the wants. And honestly, this, without a doubt, was the best option that we have today. So it did not go without many other ideas first.
Very good. Just so everybody is aware, we do have a separate committee that this has to pass through before it comes here to get worked over pretty hard, and it sounds like this one did. So, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just what I'm going to emphasize, said it to start with, and I know there's people out there that make some calls, and I know there's a constant concern of Connie's team to do it right, and she does a good job at that. I mean, she above all, does not want to be challenged on procedures and making sure that it's a fair and honest election. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate those comments, and also Janet also.
Any further comments on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item will be environmental services.
Good morning.
Morning.
One item for your consideration this morning is to consider approving the renewal of an agreement for services with Carver County Environmental Services Department to review, approve, and/or inspect Type 4 and 5 advanced subsurface sewage treatment systems from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, at a rate of $64 per hour, not to exceed $2,500. This is a budget-neutral request. We charge or pay invoices based on actual costs. So if we do utilize Carver County for the view and for the inspection, we bill the applicant not to exceed that $2,500 per system, but we do bill them back for direct costs.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second? I can second that. We have a motion by Kruger, second by Wright, to approve the renewal of services with Carver County Environmental Services. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Local Road Improvement Program, or LRIP, was established to assist local agencies, including counties, cities, and townships with construction costs for local roadway projects. The legislature approved about $102 million for this program at the last legislative session for projects anticipated to be constructed from 2024 through 2026. The LRIP program establishes 3 project categories for eligibility: trunk highway corridors for local improvements on state highway projects, local road safety for county highways, and routes of regional significance for counties, cities, and township projects. Non-state aid cities and townships must have a county sponsor to apply for LRIP funding, and the county would act as their fiscal agent if the project is awarded funding. The townships and non-state cities would be responsible for all costs above the awarded LRIP funding, including but not limited to engineering costs, right-of-way, and if awarded funding, they will need to maintain the roadways for their lifetime. We have 3 non-state aid cities that have shown interest in applying for LRIP funds. So I've got 3 resolutions of support on the agenda. So item A here, consider adopting resolution 23CB50 to support and sponsor the City of Stewart's local road improvement program project. The City of Stewart is requesting McLeod County sponsor its application for the reconstruction of Bowman Street from 70th Street to Trunk Highway 212.
Okay, I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion by Wright, second by Nagel, to consider adopting Resolution 23CB50, support to sponsor City of Stewart Local Road Improvement Program. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Consider adopting Resolution 23CB51 to support and sponsor the City of Winsted Local Road Improvement Program project. The city has requested that McLeod County sponsor its application for roadway and utility improvements on Zion Avenue from Linden Avenue to Ponto Point.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll move Resolution 23CB-51, supporting the City of Winston and their local road improvement program project.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
A motion by Schmal, second by Kruger, to consider adopting Resolution 23CB51, City of Winsted Local Road Improvement Program. Any further discussion? Then we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Consider adopting Resolution 23CB52 to support and sponsor the City of Lester Prairie's Local Road Improvement Program project. The city has requested that McLeod County support its application for the reconstruction of First Street from First Avenue North to Second Avenue North, Hickory Street from First Avenue North to Second Avenue North, Maple Street from First Avenue North to Second Avenue North, and Second Avenue North from Elm Street to First Street.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will move Resolution 23-CB-52, supporting the City of Leicester Prairie for their local road improvement program project.
A motion by Schmalz, is there a second? I'll second. You got it, Nagel's got it. We have a motion by Schmalz, second by Nagel, to consider adopting 23 CB 52, support to sponsor the City of Leicester Prairie Local Road Improvement Program. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item D, consider adopting Resolution 23 CB 53, which is a county transfer of excess funds to regular funds. State aid rules allow the transfer of state aid municipal construction funds to be transferred to the state aid regular construction account. Our municipal construction account balance is currently higher than state aid rules allow. A transfer is necessary to avoid a construction fund balance, needs deduction, which is all a component that goes into our calculation for our annual state aid construction needs.
Okay, any questions on that for Andrew?
Move to approve.
We have a motion, is there a second? I can second that. So we have a motion by Kruger, second by Wright, to consider adopting Resolution 23 CB 53, county transfer of excess funds to regular funds. Any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll have John come up here and take on the Fairgrounds Show Arena and Bathroom Project.
Yep.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, John.
Just got an overview here of the project that we've been working on. Pull up a slideshow here in a second. All right, so we've been working with Widseth on designing this multi-use building, which we don't have a name for yet, but currently is a show arena, event space, and a restroom area. We'll work on a name, but here's a view of the exterior from the south. Just want to note that colors and some of those details haven't been decided yet. Likely they will mimic, or this building will mimic the ones around it, the goat and sheep and the swine building, with maybe a little more of an aesthetic appeal with some more windows and stuff for the open area. So some of the key details of the building: it's a 50-foot by 136 pole shed construction. It will have heat, air conditioning, and an air exchange unit in the facility. Amenities: men's and women's restrooms, a mother's room, family restroom, a food serving / concession area, a large event space that's 50-foot by 100 feet that's capable of seating 300 people. There will be a vaulted ceiling in the large area, which would be 16 feet at its peak. Here's a view of the exterior from the west. So if you're looking from the ring road, that would be the front of the building. There will be an 8-foot overhang off the front, which will be similar to the horticulture building. Thanks. Here's a view from an aerial view. So the roof will be a steel roof with no exposed screws. So you do pay a little more for that style building, but the maintenance long-term, obviously you don't have to recoat those screws and worry about leaks. So that was the thought with that. We will be removing the existing canopies on the goat and sheep and the swine barn and tying in the new canopy coming from the new building so that it can, basically the walkway between the buildings will all be covered then. Also, I do want to note that the area between the poultry to the east will be all concrete. The air exchange and heat and AC for the large portion of the building is going to be sitting between the new building and the poultry, but there will be room for a walkway around there. We went with the concrete because when we're moving in bleachers or items along that east side, we wanted enough space to be able to maneuver and get some of those items in there. There will be 4 large ceiling fans in the large open space, so when we do have vents in there where the doors and windows and stuff are open, we're getting adequate airflow for, especially when we're hosting animals. The air ducts will be exposed along the peak of the ceiling. There will be a couple of roll-up doors on the north and the south for moving equipment in, or if we're doing shows for animals. And there will be the large one on the east, which most of the equipment and stuff will be coming through. As far as the interior, for the restrooms, we'll be using RFP, or more commonly known as milk board, to be used also as wainscoting in the large area just below the windows. And then the rest of it will be steel for the walls in the large, and then steel for the ceiling as well.
Can I jump here?
Yep.
John? So the interior here, in the west portion of the building, which would be the bathroom section, we do have a men's and women's restroom, a small kitchenette. It is not a kitchen. We're not going to the extent of making it a commercial kitchen, but it's a kitchenette with serving, hand washing sink, sink in there, serving window to open up into the show arena area. We have some storage area in there for tables and chairs for different events, as well as a family restroom, which we do not have a family restroom on the fairgrounds at this point in time, and a nursing station, which we also do not have on the grounds at this time. That section of the building will all be the bathrooms, kitchen, storage. That will all be on its own separate climate control, so we can control that differently throughout the seasons, whether there's events in the show arena portion or not. But that allows us to cut down on utility costs that way.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
John, I also just want to note, so when the 3 of us met last week with Woodseth and Integrity and also Randy Sturkey, we have some great spaces at the fairgrounds for events and different things that are utilized very well. But we noticed some differences with like lighting, flooring, the wall, the surfaces, and John and Andrew have been very conscious of that while they're going through the planning, while still attending to the budget. It is possible to make it look like a space that can be used differently, in different ways, and that's been going very well, because you
Correct.
guys have been working hard.
Yep, we're really focusing on try to make it as multi-use as possible, and so having some offerings for, if there were to be a wedding, so that it's appealing in that way, but then also functional when there are animals in there during the fair, and hopefully throughout the rest of the year as well. So here, Andrew is kind of going through the details of that front portion, so just a little closer up view of that. And he did mention, with the separate AC and heat that'll be used for that front portion, that air handling unit that takes care of the large portion obviously won't need to be running as much or often when not in use. So that does give us that option to be able to cycle between the two. So we're requesting for bid letting for this this project. As of a timeline goes, we're hoping to have the bid opening date at 2 p.m. on December 8th. That would give us 4 or just
28th.
28th, sorry. That would give us 4 weeks of advertising for bids. I did speak with Pete with Contegrity, and just, I know Andrew had mentioned as well, as far as, getting bids during the holiday, if he's seen any issues with that. And he said, yes and no, sometimes people aren't doing the bidding process during that time, so you might not have as much competition. But obviously, depending on where bids come at, we can always go back to the drawing board. And as far as a current estimate, they haven't gotten through all of the specs yet that Widseth has provided them, so they don't have a hard number. He has given us a range of 1.7 to 2.2 million for the project.
Okay, excuse me, I'll begin by giving a little bit of background information, how this has gotten to this point. I think about a year ago we had, and again, this is, the funding for this will be the ARPA funds that we've set aside for Parks Fairgrounds. And so about a year ago, we had envisioned building an additional pavilion-type structure. And there was a lot of excitement over that for a couple months, and then it kind of fizzled as we started to try to figure out what would that actually look like, taking up that green space in the middle. And so we kind of put that one to bed, although we're paying attention to some of our master plans that we've had for years on the fairgrounds, and some of the input that we've gathered as far as what kind of a structure could we build. And there's still interest in some kind of a band shell type protected structure out in the middle, but maybe not necessarily a big building at this point. So we went back to what we've heard for years, and we do know that the fairgrounds is basically busy every day. It's definitely proven itself as being the best fairgrounds in the whole Midwest, and with the activities that we pull in there, it's just been a great asset to our county. The location for this, I don't know if that was clear, but it is on top of where the children's barnyard sat. So is that still there today, or it's en route to be moved?
Yep, by the end of the month it should be moved.
By the end of the month, and that'll be taking a new home in the infield. We had a few things that we wanted to keep in mind when we looked at this. Number one, we still have a shortage of bathrooms, especially on that end of the fairgrounds that are a four-season bathroom. We don't really have a permanent mother's room. We needed to have some mid-sized space there. This building, I mean, it kind of grew in a few of its bells and whistles, and we needed to get it out for bids and see where we can maybe work on some of that final price tag. But if we build this, we're looking at being a substantial hub, in the opinion of many, as far as some of those small animal shows that happen across the state, whether it's anywhere from an exploding population of sheep and goat shows, youth shows, to more of the dog type shows that, of course, find their way to our fairgrounds a lot. So we tried to address that so that it didn't just look like a building with tin on it. It actually looked like we wanted it to be an exposition center of a small to medium size. And I think we achieved all that. But there's a few requirements that we have to have on there that drive the price tag up. And I guess we're not really going to get around those as far as occupancy goes. When we did the work and designed the work on that ring road, we were able to stub in some additional power and water concerns that this might be bringing up if we're able to build it. So the infrastructure is roughly in place. But at this point, is to back up again, we did work a lot with the Ag Association. Obviously, this has a lot with the look of the county fair. So we did have a number of meetings with superintendents. I know Commissioner Luthen's attended one as well right before the fair. And there's a few concerns that we needed to work with. And if you're at the fair this year, you notice that we were doing a lot of the showing of those small to medium-sized animals inside a tent. And that was there just to give kind of a rough idea how that would behave in the future if we brought all those animals there for their show day. And so we kind of tried to pay attention as to how animals would flow in and out of that, so that when we actually built a permanent structure, we had at least a pretty good idea how to get it right. So I think we've definitely done our background information on its design, but after an awful lot of meetings, I think we're to the point where we need to get it out and get some hard numbers instead of guessing, and from there we can start to to look at its pieces and see what we can actually allocate for funds out of those ARPA dollars that we set aside.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Question for John or Andrew. What would be our hope as far as construction timeline or completion if we were to move forward with a building like this?
Yep, if we were to move forward, we would be breaking ground as soon as frost is out and have construction completion about mid-July in order to get everything, give us a little buffer for any unforeseen things that come up, and then allow us for some turf establishment prior to the fair.
Anyone else? Questions, concerns?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
so are we using all the funds for this building and nothing for parks and trails?
No, there will be funds left over. What is the number that we set aside? Is it 2.5 for Parks Fairgrounds? Does that sound right?
I don't have the number.
It's something like that.
Around
And so-
2.7, I believe.
Yeah, okay. 2.6, 2.7, somewhere in there is what we set aside. This will definitely take a substantial chunk of that. I mean, our hopes are that, obviously, the bid comes in a lot lower, and that we can look at perhaps some alternates in there to kind of do some tweaking. But again, we won't know what to do until we get through this part. But it will be the majority of those dollars, to be quite honest.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I'll move authorization as requested.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Nagel. We have a motion by Schmaltz, second by Nagel, to authorize Public Works to proceed with the bid letting date for the new Fairgrounds Show Arena and Bathroom Project. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item F.
Item F is a presentation of the Glencoe Area Chamber of Commerce Tourist and Business Investment Award. A couple weeks ago at the Glencoe Chamber's annual banquet, I was presented on behalf of McLeod County with an investment award for our Glencoe Area Transportation Services building.
Oh,
So,
very nice. Is that Sheila?
Yeah.
Do we need to do any kind of picture taking with that award so we have it for?
We haven't before, but sure.
Okay.
Come on up.
All right, let's.
Could you turn the screen off? Could you turn the screens off, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Andrew.
Okay, all right. Well, we're glad to be recognized for that investment, and of course, we built that all in the name of the public health, or public safety, with being able to have our highway department, our trucks, and our services close here to Glencoe. So. Next up, item 10, information technology. I think our administrator is covering that.
Thank you. And Deb Jensen, our recorder, is here for questions if there are any as well. Item A, consider approving a statement of work from Tryman Systems to complete work for server migration of Recorder's Office applications at a cost of $3,960 with funds from the County Recorder's technology budget. The current servers that run the Recorder's Office applications for land records and recorded documents are reaching the end of support. Upgrading to new servers is required to maintain the integrity of the system and support.
All right. Questions or comments on the application?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
it's something we do, it seems like all the time, and all these different things. There probably at some point, we should all sit down with Matt and whomever and make sure we have a handle on how often these processes come up, because it seems like it's every meeting. But they are always justified in how it goes about, so I'll move to approve.
Okay. Motion by Nagel, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kruger to consider approving the statement of work from Triman Systems for the cost of $3,960. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I just want to note that Matt and I met last week actually to talk about what Commissioner Nagel just referenced, and we want to have a better way to put out a schedule of the things that come up as expenses so that you can see ahead and behind. So that is something that we'll be working on. Of course, you can always reference the minutes, but it's nice if you have one place to look at everything, so we are working on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We need to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me, motion carries. Item 11, Administrator again.
Thank you. Item 11A, consider approving the sale of a 2007 Chevrolet Impala at auction at Jeff Martin Auctioneers in Glencoe. The Impala is lower miles, but it is in disrepair as far as sending it out on the road for our staff. And so I talked about how do we handle that with Spencer when a vehicle, when we're at the end of life for its usefulness for us, how do we handle that? Do we send it to an auction? Do we put it out of service completely? The auction actually deals with cars that need service and repair, so we would want to be sending it there. I don't expect that it would sell for a high price. However, I ask that it's placed on here because, as you might know or have seen, we have $52,000 set aside in 2024 for general fleet vehicles. We haven't purchased a general fleet vehicle with county funds in, I believe, at least 4 years. We did purchase one with Barrett's support and Leah Lundgren's support to have a grant that was brought to the county, and that's mainly used by Health and Human Services, the SMAMHC team, I believe. Correct, Barrett? Okay, thank you. So that isn't even on site for use commonly. We are looking at some options because we've sold several vehicles over the past few years but not purchased any, where we would purchase 2 used vehicles. So I did a project with Spencer and Clean where I looked at 35 different vehicles online with some parameters, and I'll bring that to you in the near future, that instead of only being able to purchase 1 vehicle with that $52,000 and having some remaining funds, our hope would be to purchase 2 all-wheel drive vehicles. We are in Minnesota. We don't have that many all-wheel drive vehicles in our general fleet. And that is a need with child protection, with the assessor's office, and different departments that do have to go out during severe weather. So today, though, all we're asking is to consider the approval of that sale of the 2007 Chevrolet Impala.
Move to approve.
Motion by Nagel, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Nagel, second by Kruger to consider approving the sale of a 2007 Chevy Impala at auction at Jeff Martin Auctioneers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to county administration, our calendars. Commissioner Nagel, you ready?
I am. After our last board meeting, we had our workshop. We talked about the personnel committee, where most of that was focused on the election personnel, and then also some other positions throughout the county that, well, quite honestly, needed to be discussed and how it was going to be organized. Had 2 meetings regarding the health insurance reopener with our union partners. They went very well. A compliment to the staff, how they were prepared for that, and the information that they got out there. That was great, specifically Sheila. He did a great job with that. And then the other 2 major things that I worked on this week, or these last 2 weeks, is dealing with the questions regarding the cannabis ordinance, and we saw how that went. And then in our upcoming workshop, I can address this more, but some assessor questions and on the topic that we're bringing up a little bit later.
Okay, main meetings that I've had, Fairgrounds Commission on the 9th. We did have a lot of discussion on the final design on this building, some other maintenance items on the fairgrounds, a little bit of a recap as to how the replacement of that ring road is coming along. And we continue to, I think we'll be meeting quite often as we see our bids from the building come back and trying to evaluate exactly where we're going to be there. Last week did have economic development meeting as well as meeting right afterwards with budget committee administration on some of the stuff for today. Don't know really where to put it, but I did have an interesting phone call yesterday from an individual that felt that she was wrongfully brought into some fraudulent activity by a power company. I was actually a Carver County resident, and so I put him in communication with Carver County right away. But she said before it was over, they had my statement from the power company and my banking numbers. And so she said after the guy left, I knew that was wrong. And so just word of caution, everybody, you just can't trust anybody. Sometimes it comes up to your door with thinking that they got a good deal coming. So hopefully things are taken care of, but just a word of caution that it's you gotta keep your eyes open on stuff. So that's it for me.
For me, I'll start at the 6th we had a budget committee meeting, followed by on the 8th, I did North Fork. One watershed, one plan. Those entities are tightening up on getting grants and different funding for projects between water storage and erosion, and then also economic development committee meeting, plus I had a couple other talks with Liz on economic development. We had, of course, the personnel committee. We hashed over a few things with some of the actions we took today. I had the drainage work group on the 16th in St. Cloud. That's not going exactly the best. I see, for as far as ag, I see some challenges coming up with Bowser and some things we will be sending to the legislature that probably won't get many legs, to be quite honest. Everybody's just trying to hold their peace and maybe survive another year without the legislator taking some, what I would call harsh actions or with drainage. And then I had on Friday the Southwest Corridor Coalition on 212, and the big focus for them now is turning to 5 and 41 up at the Arboretum, which, I mean, in the long run does affect us, but I pretty much stay with the 212 part that will be starting next year. I don't know, Andrew can help me if you want, but I think there's like right now after they crunch the numbers, there's actually like a $7 million overrun on some repairs that they were gonna do, and are able to move them forward and put them into the project itself. But they're looking at starting next year and 2 years having it open. The only things that aren't really tied up for sure are land acquisitions. So that brings us to today.
Thanks, Commissioner Kruger. For me, I'll go back to the 7th of December. We had a workshop after our board meeting on that day. And then Wednesday, the 8th, I'll say that Senator Grenhagen and myself handled a complaint about a roadway located within my district, and we forwarded that information on to Public Works. On the 9th, Community Health Board met, Joint Powers Board. Our Community Health Board consists of Meeker, McLeod, and Sibley counties. The meeting was mostly centered around, developing our budget for 2024. On Monday, the 13th, I was contacted by a public relations person from Bowser, and they were looking for information and wanted to complete an interview pertaining to some of the improvements that we've done on CD 11 and a cooperation that we share with the city of Winston on those improvements. So I obliged with an interview as well. On Tuesday, the 14th, Liz Danielson and myself attended the Lester Prairie City Council meeting. I made sure that I put myself available to the Lester Prairie City Council and the community, and made them aware of, access into our government center, what's happening, how we're approaching our budget concerns. And Liz gave a presentation as our economic development coordinator on what services she can offer a small community like Lester Prairie as well. So I believe we were very well received and appreciated the time that the Lester Prairie City Council had given us that evening. On the 15th, Wednesday, Commissioner Nagel already reported, we held the union negotiations committees back-to-back with a couple of our unions, and I will compliment Sheila as well as doing a fine job in dealing with those meetings and working through the questions the unions may have pertaining to that meeting. Thursday the 16th, I was fortunate enough, the weather was good. I asked Adam, our ditch inspector, to give me a tour of everything that's happened with our ditch systems in my district. So we picked a good weather day to do it. And we met up with Colton from the Soil and Water District in McLeod County to view some of these improvements that they're working on in McLeod County and CD 11. Some of it is grant funding that they received, and they applied that money to stream bank erosion controls. It was applied to a sediment treatment pond in the city of Winston. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it was a cooperative effort between Soil and Water and the city of Winston. And it wasn't done that day. That evening, I had a UCAP Joint Powers Board meeting in Redwood Falls. Friday the 17th, I also Zoomed the meeting that was held by the Southwest Transportation Alliance. Commissioner Kruger already stated, the focus is on Highway 5, but they still have a lot of work to do to complete the section of 212 between Norwood and Cologne. And there was short conversations about the roundabouts coming up out here in McLeod County next year and the following year on 212. And then I will say that I too have had very little discussion or received very little communication pertaining to the cannabis ordinance that we've tried to handle today. The response that I usually give to people and they're concerned is, maybe we won't get it right the first time around, and maybe there will be changes needed as we move forward, but it's a start, right? It's going to get us to where we need to be eventually. So I shared that message with a person as well. That brings me to today.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I took 2 weeks off, homebound.
They're very, very good.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
I'd just like to add one thing. I didn't know exactly where to put it here in open forum. Commissioner Schmaltz reminded me with his meeting with Bowser that being I'm going to some of these meetings and these different water drainage issues, I'm running elbows with Bowser. And I notice we have a group out here that we are being, I've shared with our attorney, Mr. Hench, they are pushing for enforcement on the buffer strips. And we are really good on our county ditches. We don't seem to have any problem, but public waters. They are wanting What that means, I'm not exactly sure. Ryan is looking in. I know that I've got someone from Bowser supposed to be calling you, or already did, on what that really means. But again, it's the state having us try to do their dirty work, my words. But they are demanding that 50 feet. And that I have a real problem with constitutionally, because that is a takings. But that's my words, my opinion. But I would hope that people don't shoot the messengers. I mean, we don't have any choice in the matter. So that's more of a message than, Bowser is, ultimately seems to be the end control. I mean, they keep telling us, go ahead and do what you gotta do, but you can't do that. I mean, that comes down. If it's in their parameters, it works good. But so far, we've been able to be cordial. I like some of the guys on Bowser. And I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. It seems like most of our public waters is unfortunately in Commissioner Schmalz's district, but that's all I have.
Okay, thanks for that additional. Attorney's office, anything? Okay, Administrator.
Thank you. Item A, notification of the annual meeting with McLeod County elected officials will be here at the McLeod County Government Center. I intentionally left a date out of here because we were having a trouble getting a date where all three of our elected officials that received those reviews would be able to attend. I think it may be a summary instead, because they will not all three be at the same meeting. I have individual meetings set with each of them just to go over an annual summary and to make sure that we can bring that information to the board. So that may be a little later this year than it typically is. However, it's just not forgotten, and wanted to make sure you knew that. Item B, notification of our board workshop at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, December 7th, 2023, here at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe. And then item C, notification of truth and taxation meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. Thursday, December 7th, 2023, again here at the Government Center. I just want to note that since there are so many people in the room, Mr. Chair, our closed meeting will be moved to that room next door.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda then will be open forum or press relations. Is there anybody in open forum or from the press that would like to approach the board before we go into a closed meeting? Anyone? Okay, we'll then be looking for a motion to go into a closed meeting, and like our administrator had said, the board will be leaving the room instead of the other way around.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Luth and second by Schmaltz to go into a closed meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, but.
I would just note the
Yep.
meeting will be closed as permitted this section 13D.05, subdivision 3, parentheses C, to consider a possible transaction to make a county-owned parcel of land. So that's the purpose of the closure.
Okay.